You already know the top 25 that actually makes sense. This another version of the top 25 that we believe also makes sense. Our coaches' rankings that we do each and every offseason right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Please do all those good things like the video, share these videos out on social media. Folks are out there not knowing about the Voice of College Football. Can you believe that? You can be the one to let them know. And of course, subscribe yourself. All right. We have broken down the 69 Power 4 coaches, 68 in conference play. One is an independent. Who would that be? All right. We've made our way all the way up to the top 25. And here we go. Maybe an unpopular choice at number 25, because I heard it throughout the offseason thus far. Is PJ Fleck on the hot seat? Is PJ Fleck on the hot seat? I don't know why PJ Fleck would be on the hot seat. Just won another bowl game. He's got an undefeated bowl record. Now, has his team participated in the most difficult New Year's Six bowl games? No. However, it's proven that he gets his team up for those postseason games. Did the same at Western Michigan in challenging a Wisconsin team. And consider what he did at Western Michigan. They had the worst program in the MAC. When he left, they had the best team in the MAC and the best program recruiting the best. He has come to Minnesota and upgraded the program significantly. Consider going into 2023, PJ Fleck in his last three regular full seasons, 11-2, 9-4, 9-4. He's down from number 10 on our rankings to 25. So we're definitely weighing in the disappointment of 2023. Losses to inferior teams, blowing a big lead against Northwestern, losing to Bowling Green the previous season. PJ Fleck is at a crossroads, and Vegas doesn't believe in Fleck and row the boat because they've got Minnesota with the lowest win total in college football in the Big Ten. But PJ Fleck stands at number 25. Jeff Brohm has the distinction of leading two separate programs to conference championship games in consecutive years. That's never been done in the history of college football. And it's not like he did it as, let's say, Lincoln Riley could have in Oklahoma and USC. No, he did it at Purdue and Louisville. The Cardinals making it all the way to the ACC championship game with a regular season record of 10-2. Magical year for the Cardinals, falling just short of Florida State, of course. All right. His final year at Purdue, he lifts the Boilers to a Big Ten Western Division championship. Yes, there are chuckles out there. I get it. However, still lifted a program that was something like 3-30 in the Big Ten prior to him arriving. What is impressive is, as an offensive guru, one of the best minds on that side of the football in all of college football, he built a program at Purdue after going 30-10 at Western Kentucky and building the defensive side, putting attention to the defensive side of the ball. He makes shift an offense together here in 2023 at Louisville. And again, it was the defensive side of the ball that pretty much led the Cardinals to their success. At number 24 on our list, Jeff Brohm, Louisville. Kirk Ferentz is better than the 32nd best head coach in college football, or at least he should be. But that's where I had him ranked last year, despite winning a division championship 2 seasons prior in 2021. He did a falter to 8-5 in 2022 against another fairly weak schedule. My one indictment against Kirk Ferentz was, of course, the hiring of his son as offensive coordinator when he was not qualified, and then also allowing that situation to persist for 6 or 7 years with a deplorable offense. He was putting his own situation in terms of family obligations, loyalties, in front of the program, the state, the players, everything. And so therefore he took a knock for that. Well, that decision was taken out of his hands, and Kirk Ferentz goes forward in 2024 in a new Big Ten with new challenges, new competitive programs, with Tim Lester coming in as offensive coordinator. Of course, Ferentz has won a couple Big Ten championships, but you've got to go all the way back to 2004 for that last Hawkeyes shared Big Ten championship. Consistently going 8-4 in that range. If you look at the overall record at Iowa, that's what Ferentz has done. Excellent coach. Of course, he has produced offensive line prospects for the NFL on a consistent basis in the past. The offensive line needs to improve, ironically, now, and has been the case for the last few years. And the tight end position is historic. Will he fix the offense? Will he be competitive in a new Big Ten? We believe that the latter is almost certain. At number 23 on our list, Kirk Ferentz, Hawkeyes. Who wins at Kansas in football? Lance Leipold? You must be the guy. We'd have to go back to that one flash in the pan Mark Mangino season in 2007 when Kansas elevated to the top 5 in the country against a pretty weak schedule. But what Lance Leipold is doing seems to be sustainable and long-term in the Big 12. So look out, Big 12. Lance Leipold seems to be happy in Lawrence, Kansas, and ready to fight for Big 12 championships going forward. His team just went 9-4 after a 7-6 year. Those are not remarkable records unless you know the history of Kansas football and know the recent history where it's a 1, 2, 3 win situation. Even Les Miles, who's won national championships, could not win at Kansas. Lance Leipold had to clean up his mess both on the field and off the field, and he has done so. Huge improvement. He is going to be wanted by programs all over the country and already is. At number 22 on our list, up from 41, Lance Leipold. Rock Chalk. For those of you who have been following us here at the Voice of College Football for a long, long time, you know that I've been a bit tough on Dave Doeren. And rightfully so. I've got nothing against the guy, know nothing about the guy off the field. However, he was given a pass at North Carolina State for years and years and years and years and years, 7, 8, 9 years, winning, get this, 38% of his games in the ACC. Parlay that with a easy cake non-conference schedule, and you go 7-5, and you get to bowl games. However, the most recent edition of NC State football over the last 4 years is 34-14, and that includes a well over 500 record in the ACC. So it's the new and improved NC State. Dave Doeren doing a heck of a job coming off a 9-4 campaign this past season. We don't know what the future of the ACC is, but as it looks in the near future, Dave Doeren is going to continue to win at NC State. Is he going to break through, though? Is there going to be a breakthrough team for NC State? Those teams of 5 or 6 years ago with those dominant defensive lines appeared as though those would be the teams. 2016, 17, 18. Couldn't break through, couldn't get past Clemson. Dave Doeren, up from 27 to 21 in our coaches' rankings. One of the best indicators of a coach's worth is to look at the predecessor results. One of the best indicators of a coach's value is to look at the particular program, of course, see what the predecessor did, what that coach did, and then if they leave the program, then what happens to the program after that. Mack Brown, first stop at North Carolina, second stop at North Carolina, stop at Texas. What has happened? Elevation, winning. Then he leaves. North Carolina fell off the table. So did Texas. We'll see about his next stop at North Carolina. We got Mack Brown at number 20 in our rankings. And I was extremely impressed because I didn't necessarily know that he was the best hire at the time, considering his age, that he had been away from the game for about 5 years. And he instantly took Larry Fedora's program and elevated it. But now there has been a flat line. There has been a plateau. Last year's team at 8-5, blown out in the ACC championship game the year before by 4 scores and losing 5 games. So he's losing 5 games a year and kind of wasted the talents of Drake May, not statistically, but in regards to vying for a championship. Did go to the Orange Bowl in 2020. He's running a fine program, recruiting well in the top 25 or so, but really nothing's getting done past that. New version of Dave Doeren right there in the ACC. The measure of some coaches can't be made just strictly by win-loss percentage and championships. You have to look at the legacy. You've got to look at the resources, the facilities, and what that particular coach had to work with, and then the lasting legacy. Barry Alvarez seemed to set a trend at Wisconsin that lasted through the likes of Brett Bielema, Gary Anderson, Paul Christ. Bill Snyder has done the same at Kansas State, and now in the embodiment of Chris Klieman, doing a heck of a job there in Manhattan. We know it's difficult to recruit there. We know that there aren't many football players around Manhattan, Kansas, and that the recruiting rankings continue to suffer, and it doesn't matter. They play fundamental football, and they continue to win. In the new Big 12, minus Oklahoma and Texas, Kansas State should be a mainstay. Coming off a 9-4 season, Chris Klieman doing a heck of a job. We know he won championships at the FCS level at number 19 in our rankings. We could all come up with a list of coaches that we are pretty comfortable rank at a certain place in college football because they are so stable, they're steady, they're rock solid. Dave Clawson, Kirk Ferentz, we just mentioned Chris Klieman. There are other guys that there would be all sorts of mixed opinions about. PJ Fleck would be one, I would think. Maybe Lincoln Riley in regards to being elite or just being a damn good football coach. But here we go with another one in that category, and it's James Franklin of Penn State. We know the pros and cons. He has built a nice program. He took over for Bill O'Brien, who did really good work, as we mentioned earlier in our series. O'Brien going to Boston College. So James Franklin takes over and elevates the program. And they win, except for the big games against Ohio State and Michigan. That's the bottom line right there. He's recruited well, extremely well, especially considering Joe Paterno had this as more of a regional recruiting landscape. James Franklin breaks free and goes national and brings in top 10 classes consistently. All right, and then we know that he's winning ball games. And not just winning games, he's winning postseason games most of the time. He's rung up New Year's 6 wins in 2017, 19, 22. But can he break through? The game management, much like a Les Miles of many years ago, much like Mario Cristobal, is in question as well. At number 18 on our list, he leads a heck of a program, but where are the big wins coming? James Franklin, Penn State. OU has fled to the SEC. Now maybe Mike Gundy can get down to the business of winning Big 12 championships. At number 17 on our coaches' rankings, Mike Gundy. He's gained a lot of respect across the country, and for good reason. He wins consistently. Now, I would say that the one criticism I've had of Gundy overall, from a big picture view, has been that it seems as though he's been the most comfortable 8-4 coach. They broke through in 2011, almost got to a BCS championship game, probably should have been awarded that BCS championship game spot. Not that they were good enough, but they earned that spot. They look like they were the next program to break through and join the elite. That they were, along with Oregon, Stanford, going to be that school that was going to join that upper echelon. They went to the Fiesta Bowl that year, of course, concluded a great season. Then they just dipped into this 8-4. If you look at Mike Gundy's record, and I've made that criticism of 8-4, and people have said, no, he's better than 8-4. Look at the record. It's almost exactly 8-4. And there's nothing wrong with that, except no breakthroughs, no Big 12 championships. A lot of opportunities, of course, came within a couple inches a few seasons ago against Baylor. And unexpectedly led his Cowboys to a Big 12 championship game appearance and a great comeback from a September that was deplorable. Looked like they were going to be one of the worst teams in the conference all the way to the final game against Texas. Mike Gundy knows what he's doing. I'm not being overly critical here. I've got him at number 17 in the country. Mike Gundy pokes. Like it's difficult to overstate the job that David Brohm did at Northwestern in 2023. It's also difficult to overstate the job Mike Elko did at Duke. David Cutcliffe was a really good football coach that elevated Duke for a time. And then they faltered. David Cutcliffe's Duke teams won one ACC game in the previous 17. Mike Elko takes the same roster, the same recruit, everything the same. And they instantly go 9-4 the next season. And they're competitive with everyone. They come within a penalty possibly of going to the ACC championship game. And they lose all those games in respectable fashion by one score. This next season, They're in Tallahassee taking on undefeated Florida State. They're on ABC primetime. And they've got a lead late in the third quarter with Riley Leonard at quarterback. Leonard gets hurt. They lose the game. I'm not saying that they would have won the game. His teams just rise to the occasion. They're that well coached. He's that good. Also against Notre Dame, they let a 4th and 15 slip through their fingers. Otherwise, they defeat Notre Dame. I don't know that we're going to see that at Duke. Manny Diaz, you've got the task in hand. Mike Elko now goes to Texas A&M. He knows the lay of the land. He recruited many of those players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Let's see if Mike Elko takes off at Texas A&M. Now is the big challenge. Now he simply has no excuses, resources everywhere. Mike Elko is our number 16 coach in college football. Listen to Luke Fickell for long, as I did at Big Ten Media Days last year, and he sounds like an elite football coach. He was taking over, of course, the Wisconsin Badgers coming in from Cincinnati, where he did an outstanding job. Look at their record prior to Fickell. They were lost under Tommy Tuberville at the end of his tenure. 4-8 in Fickell's first year, and then Cincinnati becomes the dominant Group of 5 program. Moves on to Wisconsin, gets into the big time. Yes, the first year might have been slightly disappointing. He's trying to make a transformation of the Wisconsin offense. He was smart enough to know that he couldn't do that instantly, that he still wants to be tough, hard-nosed, offensive line, power running game, but challenge the defense, spread them out, be able to provide that. He knows that Wisconsin is not going to win Big Ten championships and go to the playoffs playing Wisconsin football for as good as it's been over the last 25 years, that they need an upgrade, and he's going for broke. Luke Fickell is an excellent football coach. I expect him to succeed at Wisconsin. What does that mean? That means 9-3 on a consistent basis. That means vying for playoff spots on a fairly consistent basis. At number 15, down from 13, Luke Fickell, Badgers. Maybe this is the best Kentucky can do. Next on our list at number 14, we've got Mark Stoops of the Wildcats. Took over a Kentucky program and did remarkable things. Elevated them from non-existent doormat of the SEC, getting trampled by just about everyone, to a consistent 8-4 type program. And even had a few bursts up to the 10-win level twice in the last 5 or 6 years. A couple back-to-back down seasons at 7-6. Is Kentucky ever going to be better than that? Is Mark Stoops the Kentucky version of Mark Campbell? Elevated the program significantly, did a great job, huge lift, but can't break through the glass ceiling. Mark Stoops knows what he's doing. Texas A&M. Most of the factions within that program wanted Mark Stoops. That's how good he is. He's down from 11 on our list, but he's still one of the top coaches in college football. Tennessee football, post-Philip Fulmer, has been generally lost until the arrival of Josh Heupel. Heupel brings in his high-octane offense, spread the field, spread the hash marks, and go to work, but also run the football effectively. Takes Hendon Hooker, makes him a Heisman candidate, and wins football games. Beat Alabama and Nick Saban for the first time in 15 years. Follows that up? Sure, Tennessee early in the season in 2023 lost some games that they shouldn't have. Embarrassed by Mizzou, but they bounce back. They finish 9-4. That's 20-6 for Josh Heupel at Tennessee in his last 2 seasons. Really good football coach, runs the program, had to deal with the Jeremy Pruitt issues and the aftermath of that situation, and has done a fine job to clean up the program, lead it forward, and here we go. And we'll see how they challenge the new SEC. Take away the 2 games against Washington, and Dan Lanning might be considered an elite coach in college football already. But of course, in those 2 matchups, Lanning's decisions were a bit questionable. I think that many critics piled on him a little bit too much because, again, the decisions were questionable to leaning negative, bad, but not just flat out bad decisions. Sometimes good decisions or decisions that can be justified don't work out. But they go to Seattle. He makes the wrong decisions, doesn't manage the game well. They lose to the Huskies. They get the rematch in the Pac-12 championship game. They're a huge favorite. They'd been playing so much better football than Washington. They were completely unprepared coming into the game. They made adjustments. They made it a game, but out of the gate, they got down by 3 scores. They were not prepared. Dan Lanning does a heck of a job. He can recruit. He relates to his recruits, his players, and he can scheme it up on defense. We know that. Oregon's defense was markedly better in 2023 than in 2022. That's why they vied for a national championship. Dan Lanning's in a great spot. He loves it there. He said, I don't want the Mamba job. He committed himself to Oregon. He's at number 12 on our list. Dan Lanning, Ducks. If Lincoln Riley wins big in the Big Ten, he will soar up this list. But to win big in the Big Ten, he's probably going to have to do something that he has yet to show in his career at Oklahoma and at USC, and that's field a capable defense, if not a top defense. Next up on our list is Lincoln Riley. Of course, the wonder child at Oklahoma takes over for Bob Stoops, leads the Sooners to 3 consecutive playoff appearances, blown out in 2 of them, of course, but with the mastermind behind the Oklahoma offense as OC and then as head coach, went 55-10 at Oklahoma. And again, the only thing that could be questioned in any way is Oklahoma's ability to compete on the national stage against the elite teams, but they dominated the Big 12. Then he moves on to USC, has the magical first year, turning 4-8 into 11-3, 11-1 regular season, but a downer last season as Caleb Williams ran for his life, and Lincoln Riley has let the special teams be atrocious at times, and the defense atrocious most of the time. Finally made a move, and this could be the breakthrough. Let's go Alex Grinch in that relationship, and that's sometimes difficult for these coaches to do. Probably did it a year late, but that's okay. Here we are. D'Anton Lynn comes in from UCLA. We will see if Lincoln Riley builds an entire program there at USC. He's an offensive mind like few others in college football. He's at number 11 on our coaches' rankings. We go from one great offensive mind to another. We also go from one coach who has his share of critics to another coach who there are all sorts of opinions about out there. Although those opinions are certainly swinging in the positive direction in the last few years as Lane Kiffin has taken over an Ole Miss program that has been generally in that 7-5 range since the early 1960s when they won a national championship and turned Ole Miss into a power, into a top 10 team. I know it was just 1 year, but he did it 2 years earlier. So Ole Miss is winning consistently. He's now going into a 4th season, and much is expected of the Rebels. He's one of the great offensive minds in college football. He can scheme it up. Listen to what Nick Saban said about Lane Kiffin and what he did for Alabama football at that time of stylistic changes in college football and the need to space people out, match people up, use speed, use the passing game. And Lane Kiffin did that for Alabama, and Nick Saban has always been indebted to him for that. Lane Kiffin will say some things that will make some people cringe, will make people laugh. That's certainly been the case with me a number of times. I think he's harmless from that standpoint. I think he's grown up to a certain extent, but I think that maturation is probably ended. He is who he is. He's always going to say things to rub people the wrong way. I think he's whined and complained a little bit too much at times about NIL when comparing his program to maybe a few that have a few more resources. Lane Kiffin has stayed at Ole Miss when he had an opportunity to go to Auburn, it was reported. And here he goes with the Rebels, and he's got a group that is ready to roll, and he's recruited well on the defensive side of the ball. So he's one of these offensive guys that has shown that he will take care of the defense. When they were lacking there, his top 6 or 7 recruits the following recruiting cycle, all on the defensive side. At number 10 in our coaches' rankings, right here at the Voice of College Football, of course, like and subscribe, Lane Kiffin, Rebs. At the time that Jonathan Smith took over his alma mater in Corvallis, Oregon State had put together metrics that were some of the worst in college football history, and certainly over the last 25 years in terms of not being a competitive team, lacking talent, lacking execution. Jonathan Smith's a winner. He won as a quarterback. He now wins as the head coach. Now he goes to Michigan State, and a big challenge there with a program that can win. It's possible. Mark D'Antonio showed us that, but it's not probable. They're fighting an uphill battle in regards to recruiting and just name recognition and brand. But 18-7 at Oregon State the last 2 years. And again, you got to look at what he took over. It's a remarkable job that Jonathan Smith did at Oregon State. He develops quarterbacks. He knows the position. He knows how to get it done. He's at number 9 in our coaches' rankings. Jonathan Smith, Sparty. I got to say, I did a double take when I looked at the ranking of this next coach from last season in 2023. But it was justified. This is the biggest riser by far on this list. I'm sure you can guess who it is. And my justification for number 44 out of 69 coaches going into 2023 was, well, he had a great job at Washington. Was Washington better with him or with other coaches before and after? Well, they were better without him. At USC, did USC perform better with Pete Carroll or with even Clay Helton before and after this coach? Yes, they did. So he's had 2 near elite jobs, USC elite, Washington top 15 to 20. And now he's got a Texas program where they've gone 5-7 and 8-5 and just consistently blown leads in the second half. When is he going to show me that he's going to win? He's been able to secure great jobs, so his interviewing skills must be exceptional. And we know that he can scheme up an offense like few others. We've seen Lincoln Riley and Lane Kiffin recently on our list, but this guy is right there as well. Sark did the big offensive play calling and scheming at Alabama to help Nick Saban to a national championship, but nothing at Texas. So I was waiting for the breakthrough, and we got the breakthrough. Now he's got to sustain it. Does it look like it's going to be sustained with that recruiting in that conference with those resources? Yes, it does, but he's got to do it. Steve Sarkeesian, the record is not sterling, but what he's got going at Texas right now certainly is. At number 8 on our list, I can't believe it, all the way up from 44. Sark, what is culture? Well, in college football, I believe it's a coach who is able to take a strong set of values, beliefs that are centered around trust, work ethic, being able to work together, and being tough-minded, tough physically when the going gets tough, and to be able to focus and learn your craft toward executing on game day. Mike Norvell was able to do that with a Florida State team that had not shown that since the final seasons of Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo left the program in a bit of a mess with talent on the roster, and of course Willie Taggart could do nothing with it. Mike Norvell took over the worst Florida State roster since the mid-1970s, so it took some time. It didn't look pretty in losing to Jacksonville State. 3-6, 5-7 did not look good. It did not look promising to many. However, this guy can deliver a message and be believable at the same time. He's not PJ Fleck, nor is he Jim Harbaugh when it comes to communication. He can sell a program, he can sell a player, he can sell a transfer player for sure, because Florida State has been one of the great players in the transfer portal through 2 cycles, and that's how he built an ACC championship club in 2023. 10-3, 13-1 the last 2 years. Again, the culture change has been remarkable, and he helped turn Jordan Travis into an elite quarterback from a guy that just ran around and threw the football like a shot put. At number 7 in our coaches' rankings, Mike Norvell, FSU. Some say he was born on third base. Well, at least he hasn't gotten picked off. You could also say that he's tried to steal home a couple times and got thrown out. Kirby Smart, Georgia, 2022. Or maybe you could say that about his arch rival. All right, I never claimed to be good at analogies. I am good at rankings, though, and Ryan Day is our number 6 coach in college football. The pros are obvious. He took over an elite program. Yes, he did. And they're still elite. They're still one of the best in college football. If they kick a 50-yard field goal and no one can debate this, they are most likely the national champion. That is not debatable. However, they didn't kick a 50-yard field goal against Georgia. They missed it. So he is not a national championship coach. However, he showed that he has the ability to win a national championship. What's the one issue? There is only one. His arch rival has run over him 3 consecutive years. And that is not acceptable. If this is Alabama-Auburn, if this is Oregon-Washington, fill in the blank, elite rivalries, there's not very many. This game's taken to an extreme. And that is the burden, that is the cross that Ryan Day carries, and he's got to get past that. Certainly in the new playoff era, he could exist as a losing record coach against Michigan and win national championships. That was not possible before. It had a near percentage chance of happening, but it is likely to happen with teams going forward. Ryan Day's got a ridiculously great record. I'm asked all the time, is he going to get fired if he loses to Michigan again? No, it's going to depend on how this team plays in the postseason. That's what Ohio State football is about. That's what it will be about 10 times over in the future. At number 6 on our coaches' rankings, Ryan Day. Kyle Whittingham moves his solid, sturdy program to the Big 12, where they should be instantly considered the favorite as being the program that is most likely to continue to succeed going forward. However, it's extremely close. It's going to be a dogfight for the top spot among 6 or 7 schools. But Kyle Whittingham has built something that has been sustained in Utah, and it's been mighty impressive. He used to not lose a bowl game. He won something like 11 consecutive bowl games. Now he loses all his bowl games, but most of them did not matter. Although 2 Rose Bowl losses to the Big Ten, Kyle Whittingham still looking for that major landmark national win. He is 28-13 the past 3 seasons, coming off an 8-5 season with Utah. Of course, the quarterback issue really got in the way of Utah defending its Pac-12 championship, but they won the crown 2 consecutive years. Of course, Cam Rising is coming back for 2024, and it looks to be a big year for Utah football and Kyle Whittingham. Rock solid, teaches toughness, discipline, all those good things. Man, this guy is a winner, and he's doing it the right way, and he does it consistently. At number 5 on our coaches list, Kyle Whittingham, Utes. Notre Dame fans seem to be overwhelmingly happy to have Marcus Freeman as their head coach. LSU fans, from what I understand, what I perceive, are happy with Brian Kelly as their head coach. Sometimes things just work out. Brian Kelly said he got stale in South Bend, maybe didn't get his way at times. He's not known for recruiting. Still, he brings in top 10 classes wherever he goes. Those 2 stops, both in South Bend and Baton Rouge. But now the jury is still out on Brian Kelly, big game coach. At LSU, 10-3 this past season, largely played out of the division race once they lost to Alabama. And then it was all about Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. The previous season, he shocked the West, beat Bama, went to the SEC championship game. At Notre Dame, he consistently won 10 games. He pretty much did what Marcus Freeman did the last 2 years, but elevated at times, i.e. 2012, i.e. 2018. So he has reached the playoff at Notre Dame. He's looking to do the same at LSU. And despite a more difficult SEC schedule with OU and Texas, of course, with the expanded playoff, it will be imperative for Brian Kelly's LSU teams to compete for playoff spots just about every year and make the playoffs half the time. Many don't find him likable, but man, he has worked on this LSU roster, upgraded it, improved it. They're not quite there, but they're on the move. At number 4 on our list, Brian Kelly, LSU. He is taking on the impossible task of replacing the greatest of all time. What is going to be the expectation? Well, for me, it's something close to what we just outlined for Brian Kelly at LSU. Go to the college football playoff more than half the time. The Nick Saban standard cannot be met. It will not be met, especially in a 12-team playoff or a 14-team playoff. Kalen DeBoer, welcome to Alabama football. You have embraced the challenge. And we'll see if Alabama Nation embraces you once you lose a couple football games. Winner, winner, winner at the FCS level. Of course, what he did at Washington in the aftermath of Jimmy Lake and that debacle in elevating Washington to 11-2 and then to a national championship game. Kalen DeBoer was number 20 on our list last year, and we believe that he has earned this spot. Now, going forward, this is going to be a difficult year. Roster transition and a new conference that is unlike anything that he's seen before. At number 3 on our list, Kalen DeBoer, Roll Tide. Is the transfer portal Dabo Swinney's kryptonite? Is the transfer portal going to be his ultimate demise? At number 2 on our list, Dabo Swinney. What he did with Clemson football, of course, as a wide receiver coach, elevated to the head coaching position, took a few years, started to knock down national powers like LSU and Ohio State prior to, of course, breaking through with the college football playoff. And then that 2015 to 2020 run, just look at what Clemson football has been throughout its history. A nice little top 15 program at its best, more like top 30 at its worst. Dabo Swinney could lose the rest of his games at Clemson, and he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's beyond Hall of Fame status. He's a legend. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. However, we're in a new world, new era, and of course the transfer portal is part of that. And it's been used by just about everyone else but Dabo Swinney. We know what Clemson has done the last 3 years. That has been acceptable for about 85% of the country, but not Clemson. 9-4 this past season, 11-3 with some brutal, embarrassing losses against the likes of Notre Dame and Tennessee and South Carolina the year before, and another 10-3 year. So 3-4 loss seasons, 3 consecutive years. The transfer portal is right there. It's not being used this offseason thus far. Dabo Swinney, I love that he is built a program with particular values and that he has been a man of his word, and he's a lightning rod as well. But the facts are the facts, and the stats are the stats, and the results and the championships are what they are. At number 2 on our list, Dabo Swinney, Clemson. Kirby Smart learned from the best at Alabama and Nick Saban. He took over a top 10 program. Put those two things together, and the results have been remarkable. Mark Richt finished in the top 10 more than half of his seasons at Georgia. Kirby Smart put his work ethic, his determination, his grind toward recruiting along with the biggest recruiting budget in college football. So thanks to the University of Georgia. And he has made it happen with layers and layers and waves of talent. He has just thrown talent at everyone. And for a few years, 2017 national championship game, 2018 SEC title game, another regular season loss to Bama. He couldn't break through for the big win. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Well, it happened in dominant fashion, of course, in 2021 and 2022. Now, let's understand, he didn't necessarily see Stetson Bennett as a championship-level quarterback. He tried to do everything else, play anyone else ahead of Stetson Bennett. However, Bennett persevered, and Stetson Bennett won 2 national championships, and Kirby Smart lifted the trophy twice himself. They were dominant this past year. It would have been interesting. I'm not saying they earned a playoff spot because they did lose the SEC championship game fair and square to Bama. Were outplayed in that game, but would have been intriguing to see them play Michigan. Many believe that they are still the best team in college football, the best roster, the best program. I would be in that camp. And Kirby Smart built it all with a lot of help, but he is the man responsible. And right now, he's the best coach in college football, bar none. Number 1 on our coaches list, Kirby Smart. Dogs. Appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. Please don't forget to like the video, share these videos out on social media, subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. Many of you watch the videos but do not subscribe. Please just do that. It's free. And we will continue to go through all sorts of rankings here in the offseason. We've got position rankings as we head through spring practice, get more transfer portal moves. And then, of course, again, our player rankings are coming both in conference and nationally right here at the Voice of College Football.